everyone and welcome back, or if you are new here, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make these incredibly cute pet bandanas. I've got one here which is a slip-on over the collar, where the collar just goes through here. And I've got this one here which is slip over the head, which has got our scrunchy bandana element, if your pet doesn't wear a collar. These are reversible bandanas today, and I'm going to show you as well how I apply my vinyl. I'm not going to go into too much detail about how to actually cut the vinyl with the Cricut machine, or if you don't have any sort of die cut machine, you can just freehand some simple pumpkin shapes yourself. So for today's bandanas, you're going to need some orange fabric, a set of rotary cutters or fabric scissors, a bandana pattern. I'll put in the description below the measurements I use for mine. It is just a square of paper that I've then folded. You're going to need some elastic if you're doing the scrunchy bandana, and then I have my two pumpkin faces set up, and I also have two sets of words here, so I've just gone for trick or treat and happy Halloween. These I did on my Cricut, which like I said, I'm not going to delve into today, but the pumpkin shapes you can absolutely freehand if you don't have a die cut machine. They are simple enough. So for my bandana pattern today, I'm just using my extra small, which measures out at 7 by 5 inches. Now the actual square itself is 7.5 by 7.5 inches, and then what I do is I just fold it corner to corner. And then I fold in the edges just so that line there is wide enough for your standard collar. So for your bigger bandanas, you want that to have at least 1 inch plus your seam allowance. And then once you fold both those in, that is your final shape that you'll be left with. So like I said, in the description below, I'm going to put the measurements that I use, but obviously you can do whatever size of bandana that you want. Okay, so I've folded my fabric over because I'm doing 2 bandanas. If you're only doing the one, you don't need to do this. You only need the 1 square of fabric. I'm just going to take my pattern and open it up and lie it on top. And then I'm using a rotary cutter, so I'm just going to grab that. If you're using scissors, you would just cut along the edge like you would with any other pattern. With these, I'm going to go just around the entire square until I've got my squares of fabric. And here are my 2 squares of fabric. Now what I didn't mention before is that you do need an extra kind of rectangle of fabric for the scrunchy bandana. So I'm just going to take my ruler just now, and what I'm going to do is measure out 8 inches by 2. Now my fabric's still folded here, so I'm going to do 4 by 2 on the fold. And yes, for some reason it did take me a ridiculously long time to figure out where the right line on my ruler was. I think the red lines threw my brain off a little bit. But I do eventually get there, and I do have a rectangle of 8 inches by 2 inches at the end. There we go. And what we're going to do with that is we're just going to fold it in half to make a tube, and that will be where our elastic is threaded through to create the scrunchie. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to take one of my orange squares and I'm going to place it on top of my pattern here. If you have patterned fabric, you want to put the pattern side down. If you're just using plain fabric like me, it really doesn't matter. So once I've lined that up, I'm just going to take one corner and fold it diagonally to its opposite corner. And then I'm going to just finger press this down. You can iron it as well, but I find finger pressing is just quicker and it works just as well. Okay, now you have your first line. Just open up your square. And then what you're going to do is take a corner, and you're going to note where you've put that line on your pattern. You're going to just line it up so that you can create your fold for where your collar goes through or where the scrunchy piece is going to go through. And you just want to do that on both sides. And the reason that you draw the line on the pattern is just so that both sides are even. So when it comes time to sew it, it's not going to look kind of odd. And now we're just going to refold our original bandana shape. So we're just going to pick it up and you want to make sure it's still right sides together. So you want to be able to see those little triangles because you're going to sew down the edges in a big L shape, and then you're going to flip it. You can, if you really want, top stitch where those little triangles are down and then trim the excess, but because I'm making this for myself, I'm not going to do that. And to be honest, I've never had a problem with just leaving those little bits of fabric there. What we're also going to do is we're going to sew our tube as well. So I'm just going to put, again, you'll put it right sides together and then just a straight stitch along there, and then we're going to flip it right side out. Okay, now that I have both my bandanas sewn, what I'm going to do is just grab some fabric scissors and I'm going to trim the excess and also cut off the point here. This just helps to get a bit more of a point when we turn it right side out. I also did my straight stitch on my tube, and if you don't have a tube turner, then I'm going to show you how you can turn this right side out with just using a safety pin. Now, I have a lot of safety pins and I somehow chose the only one that was stuck, so it takes me a little minute, but I do eventually get there. There we go. And you're just going to take the pointy end and stick it through one side of your tube, not through both, because you want to be able to then stick the safety pin inside, and this is what you'll use to thread through the fabric. It can be a little bit tricky at the very start, just before your fabric turns, but once you've got that initial turn in the fabric, you will fly through this and it'll be no bother. So you're just going to shimmy your safety pin through the fabric, keep a hold of it with one hand, and use the other hand to maneuver the rest of the fabric to the other side. And once you've got your safety pin out the other side, what you can then do is it's a lot easier just to quickly pull the rest of the fabric, and then your tube will be right side out. We're now going to take our bandanas and turn them right side out. So what I do is I just put my index finger through to the bottom point and use that on my thumb to push the bottom point through, and then you can just pull the rest of the fabric through yourself. Make sure that you also go back and push that bottom point out as much as possible, just to make your bandanas look nice and crisp. Okay, I'm just going to do the same with the second one, and then I'll be back with the iron to press them. This bit is really straightforward. You're literally just going to take your iron and iron each bandana to get any wrinkles out and to also make all your folds nice and crisp. And don't forget to iron your little tube for your scrunchie bandana. Now it is time for my absolute favourite bit, and that is putting on our vinyl. So you can use your Cricut or your die cut machine to do the pumpkin faces all in one go, like I did with the words, but I find that wastes a lot of vinyl, so I tend to cut each piece individually and then layer it on myself. That just saves a lot of vinyl for you to use later. So first thing I'm going to do is just put the mouth of the scarecrow pumpkin where I want it to be, as that will take up the most room. Next, I'm going to just kind of layer the nose on. Now, it kind of goes without saying, but make sure that your vinyl is facing down so that it sticks to your fabric and not your iron. Next, I'm just going to place the eyes. And I'm just going to move things around until I'm happy with the placement before I heat them with my iron. For this next part, I'm just going to use a scrap of baking paper. If you do have a heat press, you usually get a protective sheet with it, but because I'm using just a simple iron, I put baking paper over the top just so that it provides a little extra barrier between the iron and the vinyl. What I tend to do is I press down, I don't move it around because that can melt your vinyl and make it a bit streaky. I just press down with the iron for about 20 seconds. Once my 20 seconds are over, I remove my baking paper and I just check to see if it needs any extra time. This particular vinyl is one that you remove once it's cooled down. Some vinyls you remove while the plastic is still hot, but this one I just leave it to cool down a little bit before I start peeling it away. And when you do peel it away, you want to do it at an angle, as that will prevent it from peeling off a bit better. You can always reheat once it is off, which is what I do every time, just to give it a bit of extra stick. You might notice here that I'm holding down the vinyl with my finger. This is just to keep it in place a little bit. It doesn't normally peel off, but I like to do this anyway just to make sure that it's going to stay where I put it before I put my baking paper back on top and heat it again. Now I'm just going to grab my baking paper, place it back on top of my pumpkin face and hold the iron there for about 5 to 10 seconds more, just to make sure that glue is really sticking into the fabric. And there is our first finished side of our bandana. The cool thing about this vinyl is it doesn't stick right through to both sides, so you can still get your collar on and you don't have to worry about putting the face on before you do any of the sewing, which I absolutely love because it means I can line my vinyl up nice and neat. Okay, on the reverse side, I am going to do one of my words. So I'm just going to select trick or treat, and as you can see here, I did make it slightly too big. So I'm just going to take my scissors and cut the words individually. That way I can place them like I did with my face and make sure they fit. I decided here to layer trick and treat on first, as the plastic from both of those words would have layered over the vinyl of the or, and it wouldn't have come out right. So I'm just putting these on first, and I'll put the or on next. The or is quite small, so it'll only need the one go with the iron, which means that the trick and treat will get their second go round at the same time. And there is our completed first bandana. So I'm going to do the rest of the vinyl for the second bandana off screen, or this video is going to be about 3 days long, and I'll come back once that's finished. And here they are, our 2 completed Halloween bandanas. These are perfect size for cats or very small dogs. My mum's cats will be getting to enjoy these. I'm now just going to take one and add a scrunchy element to it, as one of the cats doesn't wear a collar. So I'm just going to select one at random and take our little tube, grab my elastic. Now you'll notice it's shorter than the tube. That will create the scrunchy element. I'm going to need my safety pin again. I've got my safety pin, and I'm going to... And what I'm going to do this time is attach it to one end of the elastic. And then pop that through the tube until the end of the elastic meets the end of the tube. Once the elastic is lined up with the end, I like to sew it down so it doesn't shift. And then what I'll do is I will do the exact same on the other side. But first, I'm just going to take this to my sewing machine and sew this down. Okay, now that I've sewn down one side, I'm just going to keep threading the elastic through the rest of the tube. And then once that side of the elastic is lined up with that side of the tube, I'm just going to repeat the process and sew it so that it doesn't shift around. Now that I have my scrunchie piece, I'm just going to take one side and I'm going to pop it in the opening for the bandana, and I'm going to top stitch that down. Now I do only have black thread in my sewing machine, I don't have any orange. I would try and colour match this if possible, but for the sake of my own mum's cats, I think she'll be fine with the black. So you just want to straight stitch this, and then when you do the other side, you're going to bring it round and straight stitch it on the other side. So as you can see, I have straight stitched that, and now I'm going to bring my other side around and just repeat the process. Pop it in the opening on the other side of your bandana, and then you're just going to top stitch it down again, and that will be you finished. And here is our finished scrunchy bandana. I think these are just the absolute cutest things, and I will definitely be making some bigger ones for Poirot and possibly other family and friend pets. If you do make these, please take photos and put them in the comments. I absolutely love to see people's work. These are just so cute. I definitely need to make some Christmas versions next. But let me know how you get on. If you have any questions, please just ask in the comments below. As usual, I'm going to ask you to like, comment, subscribe, all the usual stuff that we tell you to do. And let me know what kind of videos you want as well. I do have a list I have been meaning to get round to. I will eventually get through it all. But for now, enjoy these gorgeous little Halloween bandanas, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks everyone. Bye.